All right. Well, why don't we start by introducing ourselves?
Indeed.
I'm Julie Brown, owner of Province of Canada.
And I'm Joanna Goodman, owner of Oli Fine Linens.
So I'm sure what most people are wondering is, have we actually ever shared a bed together?
So I don't remember ever sharing a bed with you, but you seem to remember sharing a bed with me.
We sure did. It was in Paris.
In Paris?
It was a special trip that we took with your mom. And one of my fondest memories, really, of traveling with you. And yeah, it was really nice.
Excusez-moi, that trip?
That's right.
Yeah.
Even the bed sharing. Yeah.
Okay, I don't remember, but it was special to me too.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so let's go back in time a little bit and give some backstory to why we are sitting here in plaid pajamas in a bed.
Yes,
So
good idea.
I work at Oli Fine Linens, and my mom started the company in 1981. And I took it over in the mid-90s, and I believe I was about 36, and you were 22
Yeah,
when
that's probably about right.
you applied to be the merchandiser. Even though you were a graphic designer, I hired you as a merchandiser.
Yep.
And I really just hired you because we had an instant, like, soulmate sister connection.
Yep.
You had no credentials whatsoever for merchandising.
Hey now.
But you were fantastic. Eventually, you went on to become, like, not just the graphic designer, but the marketing director, and really had a huge hand in shaping the entire Oli brand as it is today. The whole We Change the Way You Sleep campaign came from a brainstorming with you, me, and my mom, and the rest is history.
You know, when I moved to Montreal, to Toronto, from Montreal, I met you guys, and I believe in our interview, you asked me where I'd gone to high school, and we figured out that your husband and I had actually gone to the same high school, but 10 years apart, which was pretty remarkable and really made it seem like this was meant to be. So obviously I didn't hesitate to take the job, and I'd been...
Actually, you did, and Jer...
For a moment. And
you said, I'll think about it and get back to you. And then
the right thing to do, right?
It was a Saturday, and you called me at home. And you're like, actually, you know how I said I'd think about
I'll take it.
I'll take it.
And no, and I had come across Oli one weekend. You know, Jer and I were wandering around, and he thought I might like the store. And so we wandered in, and I just loved it. It just spoke to me. This is a weird anecdote, but when I was young, I stayed at a friend's house this one time, and I stayed in the sisters' room, and they were a bit better off than we were. And I got into the bed, and they had this duvet, and they were half European. And anyway, I get into this bed, and this bed just like blew my mind. I remember thinking, like, what is this? I need to experience this. So I found this cheap duvet, and I thought it was going to maybe provide the same experience, but it really didn't. Fast forward to, I start working at Oli Fine Linens, and buy my first duvet, and
Changed your life.
it changed my life. It changed the way I slept. And so it was like that experience, recreating that experience I had had as a teenager, and I just felt like everything Oli did and what they were about just spoke to me in such a big way. Obviously, the Made in Canada spoke to me in a big way. And if it wasn't for that, we would have never created Province of Canada. I mean, it's a huge part of my DNA now, and it just propelled us into creating a completely Made in Canada brand, which was really completely inspired by Oli, because that's what you guys do best, and you make everything in Montreal, and you've been doing it for so long. And
So in 2014, you came to me and said you and Jer were going to be starting your own company. And, you know, it was so bittersweet because I always knew you would go off and do your own thing and become an entrepreneur. And, of course, losing you was, you know, really hard at the time. But I want to know, what was the inspiration behind Province of Canada? Like, when you guys were like,
Oli
all right.
Fine Linens.
No, when you were like, well, let's do this, what was the brand vision?
I mean, Made in Canada was at the core of it, which, you know, was parallel with Oli's, a big part of your ethos. And
I think I have to say right here, interject, like, we talk about Made in Canada, but it's important to note that there's not a lot of stuff being made in Canada. There certainly wasn't back then, like my mom's whole thing in the 70s or in the early 80s was everything was polyester and
Made
everything
overseas.
came from overseas. And so making product in Canada was actually a big deal. We're kind of like saying it as though it
No,
was Canada.
totally.
So I think when we say it really set us apart, Oli, it was really unique to our brand. And so in the same way, finding an apparel brand where everything is made in Canada is like,
Yeah, and I'll add the cotton to that, or natural fibers to that. I mean, finding natural, 100% cotton, anything in clothing or bedding, it's hard to do, it's hard to find, and it's just such a different experience than buying something that's poorly made. It's going to, within a year, you're going to be replacing it. I mean, I say that about bedding, obviously. Toques, cotton shirts, our cotton knit sweater. I've had, cotton knit sweaters in my wardrobe for like 20 years now, and they're still fine. I still wear them. Same as my sheets
all our
that
sheets,
when I started at Oli, that was in 2005.
something like that.
And still have my sheets. If you do care for them well, they will last. And I think that's lacking in a lot of people's.
People don't understand.
Even think that that's possible.
People don't understand how committed you have to be to make product here and how challenging it is.
Exactly. I was going to say there are a lot of things that we can't do here. And so there's a lot of ways you got to work around or find new creative ways to make interesting products, or based on like the machines and the things that we do have access to, and putting a fresh spin on it. And that was really a big part of our journey and our goal. And I think we've gotten better and better at it, and we continue to make interesting things that people don't typically or aren't expecting to see that it's made in Canada.
What I will say about Province of Canada that's been my observation is that when you guys first began in 2014, it was just some sweatshirts and sweatpants. They were lovely and they were great. But I think the beautiful thing about the Made in Canada vision and that as your brand, just like for us, we changed the way people sleep. It's always guided us. I think when you fast forward almost 10 years to where you are now, the Made in Canada vision has really shaped all the products you're doing. You're not
really
a sweatshirt company, right? Like I think in the early days, it might have looked like that's what you were. You did sweatsuits, but now it's like, it's everything. It's candles, it's, PJs.
Well, and I think with any business, as you start somewhere and you have a vision and you know what you want it to be.
What I love about the Province of Canada brand, and what I, loved about what my mom was doing back in the 80s was this commitment to doing something that very few companies do. And when it got really easy to just get everything overseas, we kind of stood our ground. And I love the way it's shaped your product offering. You began with sweatshirts and sweatpants.
Because Canada's known for making the best quality fleece, and companies around the world use Canada for that. Not all.
But the whole Made in Canada ethos it really shaped what you became, which to me is a full lifestyle brand, but guided by this commitment.
Yeah, we've kind of seen it as a challenge to give ourselves. So we, creativity loves constraint. And so we do put everything through that filter, which is extremely challenging and frustrating at times. But pushing through and finding solutions, or, finding a way that we can make the products we want to make here, has been worth it. And I think it has set us apart for sure.
Well, and that's the thing, like, I think for Oli, when good quality bedding kind of became a thing and people started getting educated about it, what continues to set Oli apart is Made in Canada. Like, we have the same factory we've had that my mom started, in 1981, the same core people who are really getting quite old, but it's like,
but they're wonderful.
It makes me so proud.
And it should. The standing behind the product, the education behind the product, I mean, these were our key pillars at Oli. And we've applied that to our business and our customer service. And I think that it has again, set us apart, and it sets your business apart because most companies you email don't even bother emailing you back. So, we have a really close relationship with our customers, and so do you. And I mean, that's something that we really, as you know, we've read a lot of books together. I think that as a leader, you started, and partly because you're an author, but you started a book club.
We had our business book club.
That's right. And I learned a lot in those sessions we had together. And, it forced me to read a lot of business books at a young age. And we applied a lot of our learnings. And I've taken a lot of that with me and applied it here. Hug your customer.
Onward.
That was a big one.
Start with why.
These are, and now I feel like you hear other people talk about this, and I'm like, yeah, I read it 15 years ago. But really, they have shaped us and how we handle our customer service, and it's made a big difference for sure.
Yeah, it was business school.
It was.
Mm-hmm. So, I think that this Made in Canada conversation, I think leads to a question about price points. Because I know at Oli, there's an assumption that it's a luxury brand. And we always try to steer away from this word luxury because, at some point it feels like just because it was made in Canada with all natural fibers and fabrics, when did that become a luxury?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's not, this is just a plain 220 thread count cotton. There's nothing, fancy other than it's made here out of,
It's what everyone should be experiencing when they go to bed at night.
So we really bristle at that, like, luxury, or like, why is this sweatshirt so expensive? Like,
yeah,
the crafting that goes into it.
Well, and we've spoken a lot about this throughout our years. But I think too, the what's missing is the value, right? So it's like, it seems like a lot of money, and it's, people would rather spend money on something that they can show off, when they leave the house.
And throw away in a year.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I think that, but this, if you really think about it, as you know, if you're sleeping on every night of your life, and the value of, the experience that gives you.
Sleeping in them and wearing them every day, yeah.
Exactly. So the difference is really about longevity and the experience. So it's like, there's a lot of value there that you have to take into consideration.
Which is why it's like you're constantly educating your clients. You're always having this conversation about, like, why? Why would I spend this? Why would I invest?
We recently, like I said, we launched this knit cotton sweater, and I've been amazed at the emails we've been getting about it, because I feel like a lot of people haven't experienced that for a while. Older customers are like, wow, I have, like, this, I was hoping this was going to be what I thought it was going to be, and it is. And I feel like people feel the same emotions about sheets. I know I do. And I feel like a younger generation is experiencing that cotton knit and going, wow, this is nice. It doesn't feel, it's not pilling. It's not falling apart. It's not shrinking after one wash where I can't even wear it. It doesn't look right anymore. And what I know I'm giving them as an experience is that they're going to wash this and hang it to dry for the next 20, 30 years, and it'll still look exactly the way it does. And they'll be blown away as they age and experience it, and they'll be like, wow, this is...
Well, it's a special... anyone can go into any store or on any website and order anything that comes from overseas. Like, it's a no-brainer. You can find plaid PJs and white sheets online, anywhere, or in stores. But it's not going to be the experience. It's not going to have the, love that goes into our products.
Yes, a lot of love.
So much love.
A lot of time, yeah.
Okay, so I have to acknowledge and address this because I love it so much. Jeremy came up with it.
Yep.
But
did he, or have we just been saying it for the past 20 years?
Well, we have
40 years.
But he came up with it as the slogan above our heads and on the T-shirts, which is so cute. But, it reminds me of how Oli the name came to be. My mom was on a plane to Europe. Okay. She had just launched her business plan, And she was going to Europe to choose sheets for this new little store in Montreal that was going to sell pure cotton sheets. At the time, those were made in Europe. This was before she had her factory, but she was committed to only from Europe, France, Switzerland, Italy. And she was reading a magazine, and she saw the title, "And So to Bed." And being from Quebec, she was like, to bed, au lit. So, once we moved to Toronto, it was a lot of au lit and all lit and
Yes.
au lait, but au lit
Yes.
is French for to bed.
Exactly.
Just wanted to clear that up. That's why this is sitting above our heads, and that's why the slogan on the T-shirts I love. Like, I feel like we've channeled my mom here.
Yeah. Same.
The logo. I think it's important to say also, like, this awesome logo. I don't know,
Was one of the what was the original Oli logo, which is why we
Oli
decided.
Fine Linens logo from 1981
Yep.
that my mom made herself. And when you guys pulled it out and sent me this, I was like, I got really emotional. And then when it came together, because her original bestseller of all time was a red tartan linen collection,
Really,
best-selling ever.
I didn't know
It
that.
put her
I
on
didn't
the
know
map.
that tidbit.
Yeah, it put her on the map. And so just the whole way the original logo and the slogan and the little tartan PJ came together, it's like
Perfect.
I'm fully in Peggy vibes.
Nice. No, I think we really managed to capture the era.
I so captured the era.
Yeah,
Like
it's
from
beautiful.
late 80s to early 90s, so much.
Yeah.
I'm going to dig out my photos and we're going to put them side by side.
All right, so let's talk about the pajamas and why we're here.
Absolutely. Why are we in bed together in pajamas?
Exactly.
So we'd been talking about doing a collaboration for years. We've always wanted to do it. And life happens, and
It does.
finally, everything clicked into place.
Yes.
This felt like from the
Right.
serendipitous.
Yeah, exactly.
It
Perfect
really
time.
came together. I think from the very first meeting we had,
Yep.
where we were like, flannel PJs, throw in a
Plaids.
cushion, plaids. How about this one? How about that one? It was just yes, yes, yes.
Exactly.
And then I remember Jer sent over the
The
logo,
visuals.
and we
were hoping you would love it, and you really loved it.
Yeah.
And it was great that we were on the same page. So yeah, fast forward, 4 or 5 months later?
to the best pajamas
Ever
I've
made.
ever put on. Ever.
They're pretty great.
Okay, let's talk about why we love them so much. Let's talk about the fabric. You tell me about the fabric.
Yeah, so the fabric is a Japanese cotton flannel. It's 100% cotton. It's thick, it's cozy, it's super soft.
I will say it's thick, but it's not heavy.
Or
like
overly hot.
no,
exactly.
no, it's not at all. Like it's actually, how would you say it's thick but light? It's perfect flannel.
Exactly.
It's so wonderful.
And so we did add some special twists because, it is a classic pajama, but we wanted to give it some Province of Canada NOLE twist. I personally love a gathered elastic leg. I find it a little more flattering as a woman.
and you never see these.
No, exactly.
We sell a lot of PJs, and especially this kind of flannel. I've never seen one with an elastic ankle bottom that had the shirt like this.
Yeah, we felt like it would make it really unique, which I think we achieved that. And then, of course, the custom label really added a
you've got
nice
the
touch, and
little-
it made it look very vintage.
The little flag.
The little
and
flag.
then the Oli vintage
Exactly.
label.
And then we have the custom Province of Canada buttons, and of course the 100% cotton, which is a nod to all of Oli's bedding, and the flannels.
And where are they made?
In Canada. How'd you know?
I know I've said this many, many times, but made in Canada pajamas are not easy to find anywhere.
Nearly impossible. I
Nearly
would say.
impossible, and I can, say that from experience. In order to sell made in Canada PJs, I had to make my own.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I have never been able to find made in Canada PJs for Oli.
No, exactly, which is why we did this, and we felt like it was the perfect, marriage between our two brands. What do you wear to bed? Pajamas. And so, I think
Perfect for the holidays.
exactly. I mean, they're the perfect
super cozy.
pajamas to wake up and sit under the tree with on Christmas morning.
Or
for
the
sure.
Hanukkah bush.
Exactly. And so the other thing that we kind of set them apart, well, I shouldn't say set them apart, but I think we both have a different way of wearing them. I'm a big tucker. And so we didn't make, the top too long where you can fully tuck it, which is how I wear my pajamas, which a lot of people disagree with, but I think it looks best. And
I'm against that.
And you
untuck.
Exactly. So that's one tuck and one untuck. And yeah, I mean, the other part of this is that they are unisex, so they're not just for women.
No.
So with all of our Province of Canada products, we always recommend for unisex products, just size down for women.
Oh, and the other thing that I love about them is that they're not sold as a pair.
And these are all things that come up when you are buying pajamas for someone or for yourself, and you're like, I'm an extra small on top, but I'm a small on the bottom.
Yeah.
And so much like a bikini, we wanted to be able, we wanted people to be able to customize their pajamas.
Yeah. And also what I love is we added on the t-shirts, the long sleeve and the short sleeve t-shirts. Some have the logo, some have the slogan.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, it's French for to bed. I would wear as a t-shirt tucked into jeans, and I think it would be awesome. So yeah, sleep shirt.
I love the pant with the tee and the long sleeve tee. But just to say, there's so many ways to wear it, and frankly, I would wear this out.
Yeah,
with jeans.
Totally.
Right.
Yep. Now I know.
We've created the perfect pajama.
We really have, that you can wear indoors, outdoors, wherever your heart desires, really.
Okay, so let's give some backstory about Oli Fine Linens, because I think you and I, as company owners and brands, do not exist without my
Peggy.
mom, without Peggy and her vision. So she had an experience very similar to yours,
Yeah,
which was...
I remember us talking about it, actually.
Yeah, she went to Europe in her early 20s, I believe, and slept in a hotel with a down duvet and cotton sheets.
Really gets you every time.
And she was blown away because at the time in Canada, like the 70s...
Yep. You can find that.
No, it was all like polyester bedspreads, those crisp, thick, gross things, polyester sheets, everything overseas. And she was like, I'm going to bring cotton sheets from Europe to Canada.
Which is a bold move.
Yeah,
to say the least.
And more to the point, I'm going to change the way people sleep, which became our slogan. So, her vision was quite simple. Cotton sheets.
It's amazing when you have such a simple, straightforward,
clear vision,
and how you can bring it to life, and also restrict yourself to
Well, and this was before the whole made in Canada. This was before she had her factory and her wholesale business. So at the time, it was made in Europe. So she was buying her linens only from Switzerland, France, and Italy, and selling them out of this little, 700 square foot store on Saint Denis in Montreal.
Crazy.
And there would be lineups out the door on a Saturday. I would go visit her at work, and lineups.
Amazing.
People were going crazy for cotton sheets. It was like an unheard of thing in the early 80s. And so that's really how Oli began. And then she opened the factory, and the factory had like 10, 15 years, and then Toronto, and the rest is history.
Yeah.
If you had to describe Oli in 2 words, I was going to say one, but two. Two words.
Wow. It's very limiting.
Especially for you.
Yes. I guess I would go with integrity. And I was going to go with classic, which sounds like such a boring word. But I'll tell you why. When I started at Oli, and this speaks to a lot of things, but when I started at Oli, I wanted to, Jeremy and I had been dating, like I had moved to Toronto, and I wanted to get him some Oli bedding. And we had, at the time, lime green and brown and white was having a moment. I know that's hard to believe, but it really was.
I remember.
And so I decided I was going to get him this brown and white duvet cover and white sheets, but with a lime green header. And the team at Oli, all the wonderful women that I adore, laughed at me and said, "This is a horrible decision. You're going to regret this purchase." And I was like, "No, no, 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 no. I'm gonna love it." They're like, "Just go with white sheets and then accessorize with some pillows." And I didn't take their advice. And sure enough, 6 months later, I came to them and said, "You were all right.
Lime is no longer in style."
I need an all-white bedding, please help me." And that was educational on many levels, but I think it's what Oli, from an aesthetic point of view,
How about
as well.
timeless?
Timeless. Thank you. That's a
Timeless.
much better word.
I'll do your words for you.
It seems appropriate considering you
Okay,
write books.
my
and
words, shockingly, for sure, integrity number one.
Really?
I knew we were both going to say that because we were both raised by Peggy.
Correct.
So for sure, both of us, it's integrity. My other one, I'm struggling with how to capture it, but for me, it's like style. Like you guys are always a step ahead of where it's going. It's always when everyone's still doing black and white, you're you brought in orange and blue. And when you remember that? But you're always setting the style. The stuff is always impeccable. The look of everything is impeccable. Maybe impeccable.
Well, I think that we've managed to do that with our current project. And I
think
hope
so
that
too.
people feel the same way.
I love that this collaboration, two Canadian brands in bed together, really captures not just our relationship, which it kind of does, but the history of the two brands, which I love. And I just think we really nailed everything we want, what we're all about. And I'm so excited to launch November 1st.
Yeah, and I will add this, we've been leaking our little project online, and it's been really exciting to see people who have known me, from my days at Oli, and have followed along all this time, both our companies. So, and they've been so encouraging and so supportive and being like, "This is such a beautiful marriage between these two brands," and it's exciting to see, and that makes me happy. And bringing cool things to Canadians that they can be proud to wear and know that it's made in Canada. I think this is a super unique.
It's such a full circle moment, and I'm so proud of you guys because, obviously.
Yeah, just so I'm maybe oversharing, but throughout this whole journey, because it's been quite a journey, as you know, there have been a lot of tears from beginning to end. And, I remember when our first pop-ups, it was quite depressing. And sure enough, Joe and Miguel showed up, cheered us on. Makes me emotional just to think about it. So yeah, you're the first to email when we send out an email that I think is great. I'm wondering if anyone else does. And you email and say this is awesome. And we appreciate that. And, it takes a big person to do that, and you've really let me spread my wings, but equally continue to cheer me on along the way.
Aw, let's hug it out.